Welcome to another episode of It's a Jungle Out There. I'm your host, Maria Tabrawi. As you know by now, season 2 is more intimate and we will travel to locations and have guests join me at CWF Miami to share their stories on the fly in Rio. We're peeling back the layers to tell stories as they happen and show you a lot more of our guests, unedited and as it happens. Our guest today is Brenda Orelus, our flight baby. Turned her flight attendant career into a fully fledged business. With her reach in the luxury beauty, lifestyle, and travel sector taking off like the private jet we all dream of. Add in a heavy dose of attitude and star quality. And that's who I am. Excited for you all to meet. Okay, what is this summer's travel trends?
So let's get right into it. Thank you so much for such a beautiful introduction. So this summer, we definitely want to make sure that we are signing up for pre-check or any kind of VIP skip line because, guys, we're understaffed.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. So for sure, pack your patience. Be sure if you're traveling to Europe this summer, it's going to be record heat. So pack that sunscreen. And then, of course, making sure that you give yourself adequate time for security.
How much adequate time?
I would say if you're doing a domestic flight for this summer, you need to give yourself 3 hours, which is traditionally what they recommend for international travel. And if you're traveling internationally, give yourself 5 hours.
Are you serious?
I'm being so serious because at this point, everyone has pre-check. Okay, everybody has clear. So even those lines are very, very, very long. And the understaffing, meaning the travel demand, is not exactly lining up.
What do you think that you guys are understaffed? Like, what's happening?
I think, it's hard to staff a position with a lot of aggression. I think the job isn't what it used to be, especially for when it comes to TSA or, gate agents, ticket counter. Those are the positions that don't pay the most, but they also see the brunt of client frustrations in the airport. So I think for the average person, the cost profit analysis of having that job and the stress that comes with it is just not really worth it.
When they do their
right. So what happens is there's high turnover, right? So people are getting hired, going through the hiring process, and then quitting under a year on duty because, the stressors, like, be nice. Guys, be nice. Everybody be nice. Pack your patience because it does affect the working crew. And we're seeing it at different levels, at different degrees. So I feel like the first to usually go are those people. They're like, I don't have to deal with this. I can get another job that's less stress.
We're making more money.
And making more money.
Or the same amount, but just less stress.
Yeah, less stress because, and this is why I always implore people when you're traveling, please be kind to the airline employees. They're only following the policies and procedures that are in place. Now, if you purchase Clear or you purchase TSA PreCheck and your expectation was to go through the line faster, but all of us have the same internet. So we're seeing the same travel advice to get these things. So what does that fundamentally do? It renders it a little bit useless because now those lines are just as long as the regular security lines. So even if you have those things, you should still give yourself ample opportunity to get to the airport because even those lines are backed up, and that coupled with understaffing is just not a good recipe. So if you come early, you make a day of it.
That's what I do. I love to get there.
Yeah, I like to get there early.
I don't want to deal with the stress of that line.
Airport appreciation. Head over to the lounge. I'm single, might get married. Might meet my husband. So get there early, make a day of it, make that a part of the trip. Like, okay, instead of letting the airport stress me out, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to take advantage of things that I only have available to me in the airport, which is things like duty free, of course, the airport lounges. And then now, depending on the airports that you are in, you have different local things available. So for example, in like the Thai airport, you can get your feet cleaned by the little fishes.
Really?
So that's something that's all over Thailand. So that's something that you can experience in the airport. So it's pretty nifty. Look at your airport directory, give yourself enough time, and be kind. Choose to be kind. It is a choice. Choose to be kind, and the entire process will be a lot more seamless.
Develop the patience.
Yeah.
Can we get us an upgrade in flights based on what's going on?
Okay, so the thing is, I want no.
No.
No. So the simple answer is no. I think back in the day before, it became internet fodder, there was a lot more discretion given to airline employees to give certain upgrades. Based on certain scenarios. We call it, giving them the pickle. You want to give them a good experience, and if it's within our ability to do so, we would have that, at our discretion. Since it's kind of become a system that's abused because of, internet gurus telling you how to hack your way into business class or hack your way, really, the flip side of like a lot of those hacks that they don't tell you is that they are putting the risk, like the airline employee's job, at risk. So if they do something for you as a courtesy and you go and you say what flight you're on and all of the what, who, what, when, where, and why, if
Yeah,
it's
you're
not
giving
up,
them away.
right, you're giving them away. And not only that, not that they weren't supposed to do it, but it goes now under more scrutiny. The airline's
Viral.
going to,
Yeah.
right, investigate, and you're going to be, on the radar. So all of those little tips, and like, telling us it's your birthday, telling us it's your anniversary, it doesn't really work anymore because the airlines have definitely gotten a lot more stringent on how you can get an upgrade, and they've also gotten a lot more transparent, not only with the employees but also other clients. So say for example, you want to give someone an upgrade because it's their anniversary, but there was another person who has membership with the airline and they were supposed to get that upgrade. They can see the upgrade list more times than not with all the big three airlines. They can see if they're up next on the upgrade list, and if they didn't get it and they see a person occupying
Yeah, that's
that
gonna give you a
seat,
habit.
they're going to tell the airline that you basically swindled them out of their upgrade, which they were rightfully entitled to. So a lot of that discretion is a thing of the past. Yeah, we can't really do anything about it.
Okay, got it. There you have it.
There you have it, guys.
Okay, all this and more as we kick off our 8th episode of season 2. So we're gonna
Yes.
get to the questions. Tell us about how you came to be the queen in your life to date.
You said, tell me how what?
Tell us how you came to be the queen in your life to date.
I think I focused a lot on personal development, but even before then, I have to say, thank you to my parents for giving me such a great foundation and exposing me to a lot. And it made me very bold in choosing my
You want
path.
to relate that a little bit more?
What?
That how your parents helped you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think my parents gave me a great foundation. They never gave me any limitations. Um, they really empowered me from a young child to not only voice my opinions but to think and dream big, and know that it's possible to get it done. And I think that is the fundamental difference that's made me very daring and bold in my career, that has allowed me to be the person that I am today. And with that information and that foundation that my parents set, I was able to have room to grow and then focus on personal development and really understand what it is to be a whole person and a leader, and how to work in teams and how to create a good company. That was definitely in my, boss babe era, focusing on my business because that's what was most important to me. I knew who I was and what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be a successful entrepreneur. And when I dropped out of law school to pursue being a flight attendant,
How
um,
did that happen from law school to flight attendant?
I just that was very interesting. So that was like such a different life. So I have been blessed to, anything that I put my mind after, I've kind of been relatively successful in that realm. So before there was Flight Bay, it was like Lawyer Bay. I was the president of the Black Law Student Association at Florida State University. I was interning and apprenticing under Benjamin Crump, who we all know who he is today and the activism, the work that he's done. And I got to work directly underneath him for 4 years while I was an undergrad and preparing to go to law school. So like I was set up, it was a really great situation. But one thing that I always encourage people to do, if you're looking to be in an industry, try to find an internship or get in the industry, because there's what an industry is and there's what you think an industry is, and you only learn by doing. So the sooner you kind of get some experience, the sooner you
That's how
know
you're
for
gonna
sure.
know if you really want to get into it. I know I always
Exactly.
wanted to be.
Right. So after 4 years of really advocating and getting to see what my life would look like on a
on an everyday basis. This is
Right.
what it's gonna have to be.
Yeah, I was like, no, thank you. And just because it's the reality of the situation. Mr. Crump sees the worst of America every single day, and being confronted like I was 17 when I started working for him. So as a 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old girl, and I'm seeing, the atrocities of, human and civil rights violations and all that up front, and being confronted with certain realities, it was incredibly difficult. And I knew that I would be a different kind of person if that was my day-to-day life. And I had to make a choice then what I wanted for myself. And while I love the legal field and I feel like I would have been an amazing attorney, and some of the best attorneys out there thought that, and still say that I could turn around if I wanted to, but I made a choice of what quality of life I wanted for myself, and that's what that decision. Yeah, so I was just like, yeah, no thanks. And but like, it wasn't a casual yeah, no thanks.
No, you experienced it. You worked.
I know exactly what it looked like. So I was like, okay, time for something different. So I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't want to starve. So I became a flight attendant because it would give me space to open up my mind, see more industries, get a better idea of what things I could solve, how I could be of service. Because I feel like fundamentally some of the best businesses, if not all, are rendering a service to a specific community. So I feel like I needed to learn more. I was 21, 22, and becoming a flight attendant just seemed like it makes sense. I never thought it would have become what it is today, which is so interesting. It's funny because had I never became a flight attendant, I would have never seen the joys of entrepreneurship in the way that I experienced it, building my first company, Crew Connect, and then becoming the first company incubated out of Vector 90, and having the backing of such amazing people like Nipsey Hussle and David Gross, and then segueing into Flight Bay and like helping people not only understand what the realities of the industry is, but also diversifying it by, lowering that barrier of entry, because it was just gatekeeping. It's not hard, guys, to become a flight attendant. It's not hard. You just have to know what you're getting into. Don't get swindled. Yes, sometimes you have to pay for courses. Sometimes you don't. It all depends. But one thing about entering into the aviation industry overall is it broadens your horizons. And for so long, that industry has only been one way. And being able to help little girls and boys, or big girls and boys actually, because they're not all that little, but I call them little, and like, their flight attendant career, help them come into this entry point of becoming a flight attendant, and seeing where they take it is so beautiful. So many people that I work with and help get in the job now are pilots now, or they're lead flight attendants, or they're pursers. They've really grown.
Also, they started there and then they moved their way up. They realized they wanted more out of.
Because the thing is like, aviation is just such a great entry point. It's the industry that you really can come in at the like as an entry level position, and really work your way to the top. And there are pathways for you to do so. It's just that it's shrouded in secrecy. And a lot of the reason why it's shrouded in secrecy is kind of because people just don't really talk about it. And even me, I feel like my parents did a great job of exposing me and showing me so many things. And I had never thought about being a flight attendant or aviation as a career until my best friend's brother's best friend's girlfriend. I met her and she was a flight attendant, and I was like, huh. I flew a lot growing up. Like, I was always on a plane. It's like, it never occurred to me like, oh, what do you do for a living? So me knowing that for myself and having all of that exposure, I could only imagine someone who hasn't been on a plane, who doesn't even know that you can pilot a plane before you can get your license in the US. You can absolutely pilot an aircraft before you can get your.
Yes. So I can do that, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe I decide.
It's a really good pastime.
Well, I did that when we went to actually we went to St. Barth on our way back to Puerto Rico. No, from Puerto Rico we flew to the Keys. Mm-hmm. And then we had a private plane. We hired a private plane to come, and it was a friend of ours, so I was able to fly a small plane. Okay. He showed me. It was really amazing.
It's a really cool experience. So if you want to take it on a completely professional level, or you just want to casually get a better understanding of aviation and maybe fly prop jets every now and then, yeah, you can do it. It's just that, people need to know education is key, exposure is key. And I'm glad that I can kind of stand in the gap in that kind of way for other people to kind of see that there is a pathway for them in this industry.
Nice. How did you merge wanting to be an entrepreneur to actually now I will be a flight attendant?
So, as I said earlier, one of the biggest things for me in entrepreneurship is that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I knew I needed to grow and I needed more exposure. So, being a flight attendant naturally was going to be that kind of position that gave me financial security, but also forced me into spaces that would make me learn about new industries and see where I could be of service, right? So, never did I think that being a flight attendant would become the business, but that's kind of how it happened. And the reason why like that switch happened is I was very taken aback when I first got into the industry, and I realized how little support there was for flight attendants, especially new flight attendants who are adjusting to the lifestyle and having a difficult time. I thought it was very surprising for these, Fortune 500 companies to have, so much money in onboarding and selling us that dream of being a flight attendant, and kind of us on some level kind of feeding into it. It was very surprising. Like, I really drank the Kool-Aid. I thought like, oh, we're gonna fly and it's gonna be, I'm gonna be in Aspen and Rome and it's gonna
Now,
be amazing. And the reality was I was flying the worst days of the week because I was at the lowest, seniority is king in aviation.
yes.
So I was flying the worst trips. I had no control over my schedule. I was having a hard time adjusting from being away from my family. And there was no support. You kind of get spit out onto the line, and then you just kind of have to figure it out as you're, becoming a flight attendant. And one of the things I think that bonds all flight attendants. If you tell me you're a flight attendant, like, we already have something to talk about because we know what our experience is. We're kind of forged by fire. So we know what that new hire experience was like and how depressing it can be for a lot of our peers. So in me trying to find resources to help with my own depression, in the job, I found that it was very taboo. They didn't want to talk about mental health at the time. It wasn't something that was openly talked about. They didn't want to about the alcoholism within the industry and the loneliness and the abandonment and like just the overall ostracization of aviation professionals because of the nature of our job. So when I was trying to find these resources, and the resources that were available, it was almost attached to your job. So if you were being transparent about you struggling in certain spaces,
Yeah, then
you
you
could
might.
potentially, especially on the pilot side, you could 100% lose your career, right?
Exactly, because you can be driving under
Right.
depression
And
or
so, but even depression, if a pilot were to have like really indicate to his airline that he's suffering from, or he or she's suffering from depression, like, that's regulation that we're still suffering with. And there's like a lot of organizations that are advocating now on behalf of the pilot sector to get that out there. But when I came in circa 2015, this is, 9 years ago, they didn't want, this was like, no, 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 no,
taboo.
we don't talk about this. This is a taboo. And I was like, absolutely not. This is a great career. I just feel like if we have certain support systems in place, flight attendants don't just have to survive, we can actually thrive in our position. And so I set out to do that, and I created Crew Connect, which became Aviation's first social club. And our goal was to improve the mental health and wellness of aviation professionals. So we would do group events, we would do all-inclusive vacations, and most of all, we would provide education to our members how to navigate life as a new hire flight attendant, all the way as a senior mama who's looking for side jobs, right? These are the resources that were important to us. And most airlines were just, if on the industry, I don't want to put it just on the airlines, because, if, the government bodies put the industry, was kind of ignoring that a little bit. And so Crew Connect was able to fill that gap. And then from there, in the research and development that I was able to do with the funding of David Gross and Nipsey Hussle incubator, Vector 90, I was able to develop a housing solution for the aviation sector, which was our clubhouses, which would act as rest and recreational centers for aviation professionals, because another issue was housing in inequality within the aviation sector. Most of us have to maintain two residences, right? So we have where we live, and then we have where we're based. and you have to your primary residence is where you live, and then you'll have a crash pad, what the industry knows as a crash pad, in the city that you're based in, which is probably like a Miami, a New York, a London, a major city, right? So you pay for temporary housing there, and
They don't help with that.
They don't help with that at all. Even though you hire globally, internationally, there's no relocation fee for new hire flight attendants. It's just the industry, there needs to be an overhaul. Right now, I'm super proud of Air Canada flight attendants. They're the first flight attendants to be advocating to ensure that flight attendants are paid from when they clock in to when they clock out. Shout out to you guys. Bravo. That's something that I've been advocating and talking about for years. It makes absolutely no sense how much downtime there is being a flight attendant where we're not being paid. Yes, we're getting a per diem. However, the per diem when we're on duty makes absolutely no sense because it doesn't make it hasn't met up or stayed on par with the times. What's happening is we're getting a per diem, but our flight time isn't really reflecting how much time we're dedicating to the airlines. So major congratulations to Air Canada. I'm so proud of you ladies. Keep up the good fight, and hopefully you guys start the ripple effect across the industry, because that's a change that needs to happen. Because it directly affects the livelihood of flight attendants. That's why we can't afford to live in the cities that we're based in, because we really just don't make enough.
So what happens if you can maintain a second location hub? What do you guys do?
You have to quit. There's no way around it. So if you cannot afford to maintain a crash pad in your city, you'll become what we call
But you don't stay at a hotel and they don't pay for it?
When we're on duty, they'll pay. So once you start your shift, the airline covers everything. The problem is the airlines hire across the United States not providing any relocation or housing for that city, knowing that those flight attendants and pilots and it's really heavy on both sectors, knowing that those flight attendants and pilots are not going to live in those cities. So what happens is you're housing before you start your shift and after you end your shift. So if you have to start a shift if the flight is at 6 a.m., sign in is anywhere from 3:45 to 4 a.m. in the morning, right? 4:45 in the morning. That's when your sign-in is. So there's no flight you can take from Miami to get to your sign-in at 4:45 a.m. in New York. You have to go to New York the night before. So the night before, the airline is not covering your housing. That's how we created this system of crash pads. They're temporary housing solutions where there's like 4 to 5, 6 bunk beds in a room, and it's just flight attendants and pilots circling out a 1-bedroom apartment in, somewhere in New York, close to the airport. So that's what a crash pad is, and that's the industry standard. What Crew Connect came in and did, and with the research and development that I was able to do, I was able to find a hybrid solution that was not only a luxury housing, private housing dormitories for the aviation sector, but it was also acting as a recreational center and also as a resource center. So not only did we need a housing solution within the aviation sector, but we also needed education. So before I came into this space, there was no such thing as aviation professionals connecting across company lines. You typically just knew the airline that you work for. Those were your friends. And it was also typically in the work sector that you belonged to. So if you were a flight attendant, you kind of knew just flight attendants. You might have known a pilot, or you might have known a ramp agent, but it wasn't customary. So once Crew Connect came into the picture, we took everybody out of uniform across company lines, and we started getting them to socialize. And the reason why I wanted them to socialize is because as a flight attendant who's worked for multiple airlines, I could see that they didn't know what was going on at other airlines, which was rendering them ignorant to what they should be advocating for themselves. So now when you're hanging out, having a beer at, a Crew Connect brunch, and you find out that these people get paid overtime and we don't. Because I remember when I got to my airline, they were surprised when I asked when does overtime kick in? And they're like, oh, there's no such thing as overtime in aviation. I was like, yes, there is. I just came from another airline that I had overtime. So it was those kind of conversations that we were stimulating.
You became more knowledgeable.
Right, to make them a lot more knowledgeable. So once we came into that, that's how Crew Connect started. And that was my focus for about 7 years. And then I think as Crew Connect became more successful, people found me behind the brand, and they found me to be interesting because I am my mother's child. So all the things that make me uniquely who I am, people also found that to be interesting. And, Flight Baby was born. And I'm so glad that I was able to use all of the information that I've compiled over the last 10 years of my aviation career to use it to educate not only other people who are looking to get into the industry, but also people who are in the industry and understanding how they can pivot. Because now this is what I do full time.
What has the response from the aviation industry been like?
I think the response has been all encompassing. I think I feel so much love and support, more than anything. I think over the years when it was very difficult, navigating this process, it was, my peers who were championing me and really supporting me because they understood the vision and the fact that, we do have a problem within the aviation sector, and that I was willing to put a face and leverage my relationships to get it done. So I think overall I've gotten a lot of support. However, I think recently, because I think in the new viral age, because I've been recently going viral, I find that people who only know me from a viral TikTok or videos, they seem to be a lot more opinionated about what they think I'm doing. And I understand, and I'll always give grace, because I think there is a lot of like aviation catfishing that's happening right now. There's a lot of people who are, cosplaying as flight attendants and lying. But, Google me. Not a
We'll get
liar.
to that.
Not a liar. So I do share a lot of things within the aviation sector that people may think is taboo or should only be spoken amongst the aviation sector. And I've always been very transparent about the fact that I don't agree. I feel like our industry, while it's amazing and there has a lot of opportunity there, I think there's a lot of work to be done for us to be as progressive as we portray ourselves to be. So I'll always be tasteful and respectful of everyone's privacy. However, we do need some changes within the aviation sector so that the turnover rate within this industry is not as high as it is.
Okay. Let's look at one of your darkest moments and how you came out on the other side stronger, more resilient, and powerful.
I think my darkest moment was being a new hire flight attendant. I was a new hire flight attendant. I was incredibly depressed. I realized that the job that I'd labored for over a year to get was not what I thought it was going to be, and that was something that was very difficult to come to terms with. So that was very dark, and trying to find those resources.
Did you ever at some point decided, no, I might quit? This is not what I want.
I was thinking about quitting until I started to recognize that a lot of my peers were echoing the same sentiments as me. They were feeling, lonely and having trouble balancing the lifestyle and, just getting help. So, how I responded was creating Crew Connect and really using Crew Connect as a vessel to improve not only the life of my peers, but also my own life. As a flight attendant, as a modern day flight attendant. So I think that entire experience made me a lot more resilient. And coming out on the other side, I'm so glad that I chose to advocate not only for myself, but also for my peers, because I feel like now talking about aviation, mental health and wellness in aviation is not as taboo. We have so many great resources now on the pilot side as well as on the flight attendant side. And a lot of it is because of the work that I've done in those early years.
How did you transition into front of camera personality take place?
Well, you guys wouldn't let me be behind the camera. It's so funny. I think it's so interesting because I probably have 7 years worth of production working with with Crew Connect. We had our airline representatives who came from all different airlines and positions, gate agents, flight attendants, pilots, air traffic controllers, mechanics, and I would put them in like these social experience. I thought that was the coolest thing, and nobody cared. Like it wasn't until I started posting myself that's when like oh my God, like, look at your content. I'm like, this is so funny to me because I don't know. I think it's funny because in a perfect world, I probably would spend a lot more time behind the camera because I love production. I love creating concepts and bringing them into fruition. I love casting people who are, perfect for their different positions. But I ended up on camera because I was advocating for aviation's professionals, mental health and wellness with Crew Connect. So I was spending a lot of time pitching, going to conferences, showing up as my mother's child. I think what it is like people didn't expect me to be representing what I was representing. Oftentimes they thought I was the model or they thought I was the assistant when I was in actuality the owner of the company. And so that in and of itself was kind of an anomaly because it's like, oh, we thought you were here to be pretty. And I was like, nope, I'm here to pitch. So it kind of became that kind of situation where I got a lot of press. So I got a lot of press that wanted to interview me because it was a different face when you see someone talking about aviation. We know what that demographic kind of looks like, and for me to be doing the same thing and not only just be making commentary not only from my experience as a flight attendant but also my experience conducting focus groups for aviation professionals and the feedback they've given me themselves, like in the quietness of our focus groups or in the secrets of our focus groups, they were able to like share with me what their true thoughts and desires were. And then yeah, it kind of snowballed from there. I started showing my travels and then that became interesting. And then, I don't know, I feel like I'm a cute girl doing fun stuff.
There you go.
It's not hard to love.
No, it's
So
true.
I'm glad there's some education behind it.
Awesome. How important it is to be an ambassador of your Haitian culture.
I think it's incredibly important for me to always explain how important my heritage and my Haitian background has impacted my entrepreneurial journey. Because, quite frankly, I think a lot of the lessons and a lot of the daringness that I have is attributed to the fact that I'm Haitian. If you know anything about Haitian people and who we are fundamentally, we are hardworking and we will see something through. So, my parents always empowered me in that kind of way and taught me traditional Haitian values that I find help me to this day navigating the world. And I think I really enjoy showing people what it is to be Haitian, what the reality of being Haitian is for me, and what my experience is, and how you know I'm my ancestors' wildest dreams. So I think it's amazing, and I feel like the food is the best part.
Yeah, true.
And Haitian in aviation, I think, is very huge too, because I
Why?
definitely because we spend so much time traveling. I think a part of being an immigrant or a first generation American is the airport being a huge part of your familial lifeline, right? So well before I was ever a flight attendant, I was always on a plane. Every weekend my parents would take me to Haiti because all of my family's businesses are in Haiti. My dad's entire entrepreneurial pursuits are in Haiti. So when we're out of school, we would go to Haiti on the weekends for every holiday, and that's how we would keep that
Your
relationship
heritage.
right alive. So I think it's natural that a lot more of us would seek out a career in aviation. I just feel like me being able to represent for the Haitian sector to see not only can you come into the aviation industry, but you can take it over, shake things up. So I think that's really important for me to be able to advocate. And not only am I a woman, not only am I Black, but I'm also Haitian. And that Haitian heritage means a lot to me. And I hope that I can inspire some of my fellow Haitian brothers and sisters to, check out a career in
Oh,
aviation.
yes. What is a project you have brewing that you're excited for?
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Okay, I think which one? So definitely, if you haven't seen already, I'm in the airport surprise. So now in all the United States airports, you will see me talking about how to pack and giving my tips as a flight attendant. So that's not only in the airport, but also in your seat back pocket. I'm really excited about that. I'm also going to be launching all-inclusive trips to West Africa. I think this is something that I've been wanting to do for about 6 or 7 years now, but it was very important that the timing was right. I had the proper team in place, and I'm able not only to give you an all-inclusive trip, but really do a cultural exchange. For those of you who follow me on socials, you probably, if you're an OG follower, you've been following me since I started going to Nigeria and Ghana, and I think that's the part of the world that I really want to show, because I feel like not for nothing, we've been touring everywhere else. Like, we've been to Europe, we've been to Asia, and I feel like right now is really Africa's time to shine when it comes to the tourism sector, and I would love to do
It's
that.
beautiful. I went to Mala Mala, the south of Africa.
Oh, nice. How long were you there?
I was there, I would say, for 8 days.
Oh, yeah, that's a good trip.
Mala.
How was
Yeah,
it?
Beautiful.
What was your favorite part?
Everything. The moment that I got there, and the people, and even the food. It's a place I could live. You have to really experience it.
When I would tell people that I could relocate to Africa in a heartbeat, they're
They
like,
looked
"Wait,
at me like if I was crazy.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" And I want to show you. That's what I want to do. So this sector, I think my main goals is educating new flight attendants on how to live and thrive within their position, so they can learn. Not only can you be a flight attendant, but if you want a career outside of it like me, I can show you how to do that as well. But my biggest focus is showing people how you can have luxury travel throughout the continent of Africa. Like, I've never had, like, I know what it looks like or what the picture is in the West, and that's just not the reality. That's not my Africa. That's not the Africa that I experience when I'm there. And not that there's anything wrong with any of it. I just want to show that Africa is in fact multifaceted, one country at a time.
So you're actually building like a tour where people go in and you take them yourself and you.
Yes.
Okay.
So
nice.
I'll what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in. You heard it here first. I was trying to keep it a secret, but
Tell us.
We're going to start in Ghana, and Ghana is going to be my first location. And the reason being is because I've had the pleasure of working not only with so many entrepreneurs in Ghana, but also the Ministry of Tourism on the Year of Return and incorporating Haiti in that. And I've been saying it for probably 6 or 7 years. Ghana has so much to offer. And right now is really not only the time to vacation there, but also to explore new industries to invest in. So that's why it's more of a cultural exchange where you'll come and experience these countries how I experience them with the friends that I have and the different industries in which they're in. And if you want to have a luxurious vacation, you can have that. But if you also want to make it a little bit of a business trip, you can also do that.
Will you take them to do like experiences on a tour or with the animals?
Like, so I'm gonna take them, my dear friend.
Safari.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take them to one of my favorite resorts. It's about 2 hours outside of Ghana. It's in Ada, Ghana, on the River Volta, and that's like one of the oldest fishing, and it's still a fishing community. And it's called Aqua Safari. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most idyllic places I've ever stayed in. So it's right there, riverfront, and then you have all of these majestic animals that are roaming the property, completely unfazed by your presence. Like, you can come up if they're in a friendly mood, they'll let you pet them. Zebras, horses, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And then the food is brilliant because it's traditional Ghanaian food, of course, with like a little bit of a Western twist. So that's gonna be the animal experience, because I think it's very important for me to always experience animals in a comfortable setting where I know that they're being treated well and they're being supported, because I feel like when it comes to animals in tourism, there's a lot of abuse that happens in the name of, tourists. And so I think one of the things I love the most about Aqua Safari in Ada, Ghana, is how they treat their animals and how we're kind of experiencing them on their turf as opposed to the opposite.
Kind of therapeutical.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. What is your favorite part of being able to connect with your audience, whether on social media or IRL?
I think my favorite part of connecting with my following and anybody who supports me is I'm always, especially in real life, I love connecting with everybody online, but there's something about meeting someone you've impacted in real life, and it's just so moving. I never take those moments for granted, because for someone to come up to me and tell me like I'm a flight attendant because of you, or I I jumped into this industry because of you is really, really monumental to me. And it's something that like I don't take very lightly. I'm really, really glad that I can be that for people and, also show you like I'm not that serious in real life. I think sometimes when people meet me, they think I'm going to be like, a certain way. And I'm like, oh my God, you watch my stuff? Like, really? That's cool.
Okay.
So,
do people recognize you when you're out and about?
yes. And especially on the plane.
Really?
I think when I'm out and about, because I'm like not placed in the airport, it's kind of hard for them to kind of know exactly where they know me from. But if they see me in the airport or on the plane, it's like, you're Flight Bay. It's like, yes, 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 yes. And it's really fun. I think it's cool. I always try to like take pictures or do whatever I can. The only thing is if I'm on duty, I don't take any photos for obvious reasons. But yeah, it's cool. It's very interesting. I was like, wow. I noticed like I really started to see what kind of impact that I was having when people just started recognizing me. And I was like, oh, wow. Thank you.
One of your biggest questions asked for me, are you still a flight attendant?
So technically yes, technically no. So I've left the commercial side of things. I'm now focused on Flight Bay full time as a content creator, and also I have a studio in Miami where I basically make it possible so that you can capture professional level content yourself. So it's called Solography. And on the corporate side of things, you can still book me as a corporate flight attendant, but I'm out of here on the commercial side.
You're out.
Yeah, because I think it's time that
and on the private sector.
Yeah, so on the private sector, I'm still working, but on the commercial sector, I'm absolutely finished. And I think once I started going in a direction where I wanted to be a lot more transparent about the realities of the aviation industry, I think it made more sense for me to be doing this full time. And yeah, I think it's fun. Podcasts coming soon.
There you go. That's awesome. Okay. Is there something you want to achieve and do career-wise on top of what you're actually brewing at this moment?
I think career-wise, I'm so blessed to say that I'm like literally living out my dreams. I think
that's the best.
Right. I'm living the dream. My the things that I really wanted to do, I've already done them. So now it's like new dreams. Like now we're in a space where we're creating new dreams, new opportunities are coming forth. Being able to really establish Flight Bay as a brand, to really be in airports nationwide, and really kicking off my aviation commentary and sharing what the realities, the not so fun parts of being a flight attendant, and the realities of what our job really entails, but in a way where I don't have to take down the industry, because that's not my goal. I think it's super important that I am just honest with people about what they're actually getting into, and I think that would positively affect everyone involved, including travelers, because now we're not having high, rates of turnover, because people are getting into a job that they didn't fully understand. So I think that's where my ministry is, like basically operating as like, your flight attendant auntie, your flight attendant coach. Here's how
Especially when you're young, that you're starting and you really don't know, and you're just going out there to experience something and see if it's what you like. We have that. I have that turnaround here. They start and then they'll last a month or two, or some of them, but then they move on.
Yeah.
And it's expected because they're young.
Mm-hmm. Especially like, and I think when you're young and the thing about aviation is it's almost only beneficial if you get in young. That's kind of like how this industry works. Pilots, flight attendants, if you ask us when we started flying, rarely do you hear, anything above 20s. Like it just really doesn't happen. So we're making a decision to get into this industry in our early 20s, and not really recognizing what the long-term ramifications are. And I think one of the things that really stands out about me as a flight attendant is the fact that everybody knows I'm a flight attendant, but nobody knows who I work for. I've made my own brand. I've invested in myself because I understood the value of the information that I have compiled over the last, 10 years. And in doing so, leaving the commercial sector wasn't something that was detrimental to me because I had already built up my own brand that I walked straight into. And leveraging, I feel like what I really want to teach flight attendants is how to leverage your expertise, because you are an expert. Like, to be honest, we do it every single day. We travel more than the average human. Leveraging your travel expertise into another field, and that can either be just as a side hustle, so you have supplemental income while we sort out the legislation that will make it so that airlines pay you adequately to live, or you do it as an exit strategy, as I took it. I knew that I wanted to fly forever, but I knew that my profile would eventually become too large for me to fly. And that was just the reality. So I think it's bittersweet, not being on the commercial planes every day. But I would not trade for my life now. So very much so living the dream. And I would tell any flight attendant to go after it. I think, you know, get what you can out of it while you can.
That's it. How has your family responded to your online persona? Are we getting the full insight of Brenda?
I think my family, they're not surprised at all. They've met me, and the thing is, I think that's so cool, is the flight bay persona is just the aviation aspect of me, right? Yes, there's way more to me. I think I'm a lot more funny, goofy, relaxed than people realize, because I'm usually giving you, travel information that you need to know. But I think my parents and my family and my siblings all knew that I was like destined for this. I've always had the gift of gab, and I've been building brands. It's just, I feel like they're surprised which brand took off, because I feel like Flight Bay, I've probably put the least amount of effort into. And this is not to bash any of my other brands, but it's just to show you how much Flight Bay really is authentically who I am. So I'm just being myself, and you guys liking it. I love that for all of us. So I don't think they're really supportive. And yeah, my mom, every time she sees me in the airport, like, she sends me a picture, she sends me a video. That's my daughter. I'm like, yes, girl. Period. So they're not surprised at all.
How do we make a flight attendant's life easier?
Oh, this is the money question. Great question. So, as a customer, how you can make our lives easier? Understanding the sequence of the flow of service. I think when passengers think it's good to get up, it's actually usually a really bad time for the flight attendants for you to get up. So here's what you do. When you get on board, try to use the restroom before you get on board. But if you need to use the restroom before we take off, it's actually better for you to use the restroom while we're on the ground. The only caveat is you must remain in whatever sector of the cabin until the end of the boarding process, so you're not trying to swim upstream. Now, once we get up in the air, that first 5 minutes, when like the seatbelt sign goes off, or 10 minutes, we're preparing the entire service for the entire aircraft. So that's actually not the best time for you to use the restroom, because while yes, the restroom is there, typically, especially on US carriers, the restroom is in the galley. So you would have to get in our service space in order to use the restroom. So actually wait until they're finished setting up the carts and they start service and they pass your row. That is the best time to use the restroom, because now you're not making us stop. We're not having to tell you wait a second so we can move heavy carts out of the way. And it's also the lessens your risk of injury. So wait until we get those service carts out, and then we pass your row. And once we pass your row, you can use whatever restroom is available, whether or not it's in your cabin, because we understand during that time that rule of only use the restroom in your cabin is suspended, because that's the only restroom that's available. So understanding the flow of service, understanding when we are in initial and final descent, when we need those final service items, is because we're literally about to land and we have to take it from you before we can take our seats. So please give it to us.
True. And there's been a lot of after COVID, I guess people were under the stress with everything and flying back again, and the panic. And and that was like crazy. You want to talk about that a little bit?
I think COVID flying absolutely deserves its own book. That is, I'm still not fully recovered from COVID flying. Those were wild times because we went through so many peaks and valleys because like at first week we were heroes, like, oh my God, you're a hero, like please go so I can go somewhere I don't need to be. Go to work. So at first we were heroes. Then we were the host of the germs, so nobody wanted to touch us. We were being disinvited from everything. Like family members were like telling us like,
Quarantine.
no, yeah, get away from us. Like absolutely not. Like my friends had to like create like who live with like family members had to have like new housing arrangements made because of the job because people were so scared. So we were very ostracized in that period. So passengers and our peers did not really want to touch us, interact with us at all. And then after that period of being deathly afraid of us, you guys started beating us up. It was weird. Why were you doing that? I thought you were afraid of us. I thought we were the host germ. Now you're physically assaulting me. So wild times, wild times. I think I should get like, reparations in some kind of fashion as far as like PTSD because we were literally going to work.
You don't know what to expect.
We were going to work not knowing if we were going to get beat up or not.
Seriously.
And it was really like, I'm telling you, every flight attendant who flew during the COVID era has either a story where they were physically assaulted or came close to being physically assaulted. It was absolutely bonkers. It was bonkers. It became like political. I was like, I'm in a skirt. Why are you yelling at me? Why didn't you take this up with the TSA agents? Why? Why? We are at 30,000 feet. Why are you making a stance right now? You signed and checked so many boxes saying you wouldn't do this. Why are you doing this? So it was weird times, very weird times. And then there was no food. That's the great hunger.
I think that was the issue, the hunger.
There was no food because we were still traveling, but then like no restaurants were open, but then we couldn't pack anything. Oh God, hard times. That deserves a book. That absolutely deserves a book. That was some wild times. I still haven't forgiven y'all for that.
Okay. Worst in flight story and how you overcame it.
People trying to beat me up during COVID.
There you go, COVID.
I overcame it by running away. No violence. No violence. I'm in a dress. What are you doing? Yeah, I think it was just COVID overall. It was wild times. I was actually in China. I spent 10 days in Shanghai and 10 days in Beijing while we were still calling this the Wuhan virus.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, like to get, like, this is at like the onset. So I was literally at ground zero looking around like, I think this is going to be a problem.
Yeah, it was a problem.
And that was in January of 2020. And then by April, we were shutting down. That's when I think at London was the first to close their borders. And they were pulling out their routes from travel. It was wild times.
So you were not stuck anywhere when that?
I was stuck in Shanghai. I was not supposed to be there 10 days. I was supposed to be there 3 days.
Wow.
It was me, and we were doing rescue flights, and it was so weird because at that time we didn't know how it traveled. So it was scary. So like when you're being a flight attendant, those are the parts of the job that nobody prepares you for. There's a global pandemic. As a junior flight attendant should have never saw that trip. I should have known something was up when I got that trip. That is a very senior trip. That is a very highly coveted trip. Shanghai, Beijing, the girlies are not letting up off of that. So the only reason why I got that trip is because they knew about the health scare that was taking place, and they didn't want to operate it because senior mommers are just that, senior. So they're in the age bracket that was, high risk. So they absolutely did not want to operate those flights. Me thinking it's my lucky day as a flight attendant, like, oh my gosh, I got the 4-day Beijing. I got the 4-day Shanghai. You should have known something was up, girl. So when I get there and I'm trying to hang out with my friends in Beijing and they're like, are you new here? Like, we can't hang out. And I was like, no, like, it's fine. Like, I'm at the Shangri-La. Like, come on. They're like, I don't care where you are. We cannot hang out. And that's when I understood the gravity, because I'm in two of the most populous cities in the world. I have never seen Shanghai not busy, and I've never seen Beijing not busy. I'm talking shoulder to shoulder traffic.
It was a ghost town.
Ghost town. There was nobody. And then even how we did quarantine, I thought it was going to be a completely different experience because of what I had experienced in Shanghai and Beijing during the outbreak of Wuhan, the Wuhan virus during Chinese New Year. So that means there was all of these expatriates who had returned for the Chinese New Year that are now trying to get out as this virus is spreading. And then how they were doing quarantine, what measures were being taken. And I was like, this isn't really serious. And even at that time, airlines weren't offering reprieve or leave. I had to self quarantine before self quarantine was a thing, because I came back and I called my airline and I was like, I don't feel comfortable being around people based on what I saw from where I came from. And even though it's not a big deal here yet, I think I should just be removed from my trips. So they did remove me from my trips, but they didn't pay me for them. And they told me, I wouldn't face any disciplinary action because it was just so new. It was such a new thing. And this is like how being a flight attendant can land you in the middle of a global episode.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, let's get wild. What has been your first impression of CWF Miami?
I love it. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I love that you guys have so many different wildlife, but they're all so cute. What are their names? Oh, sorry. You have the jaguars right here.
More leopards.
No, wait, these are leopards.
Leopards?
Okay,
Leopards.
these are
Back
leopards.
in the back there.
Okay, so these are leopards, not jaguars.
No, yeah, they're
Yes,
leopards.
these are
They're
leopards. And then they have what was Romeo? Romeo was
Brazilian tufted capuchin.
Say it again.
Brazilian tufted. New World monkeys. They're New World monkeys. They're the capuchin, but they're subspecies of capuchins.
So Romeo is a Brazilian tufted capuchin. So I met a Brazilian tufted capuchin today. His name is Romeo, and we may or may not be getting married. I don't know. Jury's out. He was giving me kisses. I was loving it. He was loving it. I think the overall experience is beautiful because I feel like when you're kind of in touch with nature and you kind of are working homeopathically together to not only give them a better life, but also give us education about them is so important. And I feel like that's something that we need more of, because I feel like people like exotic animals, but they don't take the time to understand them.
I agree with you.
Yeah, so
this is what we try to do here. We try to educate the guests that come and give them an up close personal experience. Yeah, they're not going to be able to have that.
No, not at all. Like I literally, my right hand Jodni, literally when we were coming in, he was like, "Are there monkeys here?" And I was like, "Yeah." And literally 2 seconds into it, there's a monkey on his shoulder. So just making dreams come true, truly.
How would you describe it and share it with your audience?
So I would describe it as one part educational and one part hands-on. And I think the one part educational is what stands out the most to me, because I think whenever you're caring for animals and giving them a better quality of life, you also have a responsibility to educate the people around you about what their needs are and how to properly not only interact with them, but also to make sure that their greater environments and their natural habitats are protected as well.
I agree. We do that with our staff and with our guests.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes. Okay. Do you have a favorite animal at all?
Yeah, monkeys. I've never been around them before, so it was like a nice little fun day. Well, I've been around gorillas.
Oh, tell me about that. That's my dream. That's one.
They're very big.
Yes.
Very big. I was able to do the trek in Kigali, Rwanda. And so the only downside is the GoPro died. We lost the GoPro with all the footage. But they're massive, and I was able to see them in their, their own natural habitat.
How close were you to them?
I would say from where that is to here. So like I didn't want to get too close. You could get closer. I just like to be a reasonably safe distance, just for my own
protection.
You're right. But yeah, they were there eating. There was like a little family. It was a real trek to get up there. But to see, for example, Romeo, I've never had, oh no, I've been to monkey forest.
When you say a real trek to get up there, why? You have to go up?
Yeah, so you have to trek to get to where the gorillas hang out. So like you take a flight into Kigali, and then you hire the tour guides, and then they'll take you on a trek. It is a proper trek into the forest where they live. And so they're the ones with the relationships with the gorillas, and they're familiar. So like we just follow what they tell us to do. and it's nice. It's a once in a lifetime experience. It's absolutely gorgeous.
So you feel it was safe?
Yes, very safe. I don't do anything that's not safe. I only have one life. I can't play with it. So it was.
So did they never? None of them came so close to you. They were just doing their thing.
They were doing their thing. I think because I already set the expectation that I didn't want to interact. We were taking that kind of precaution. So I personally didn't want to take anything that was super close. I have seen people take close up, or like have like a baby gorilla like run up to them. And
the mother doesn't become upset.
So that's the thing. That's the whole thing where I'm like, I'll stand here, but we're not really interacting with them. So the only time that they see us, or the only person that they would even like make eye contact with a little bit, is the trainer, the tour guide, the person who's like taking us through the trek. But yeah, there's like an entire the ministry, the Kingalisi Tourism Board, that's one of the things that they offer as like their tourist attraction. You can come, but you can only come, and it's like $7,000 or $8,000. It's not cheap. It's not something that you can just casually decide. So there's like a whole educational program that they do with you beforehand, what you can and can't do, what not to do in the presence of the animals, the safe amount of distance to keep away from them, and what to do if, God forbid, they were to be in reach, and like how to respond if you were to be attacked. Because like, I mean, that's the reality of what you're signing up for. You could be attacked.
Yeah, that's their nature.
Yeah, so we're going, and this is what I prefer experiences where, like, you're going into their territory if it means that much to you.
Yeah, you're going there.
Yeah, but you might get mauled. That is an absolute possibility, and they do make it clear. So
I want to thank Brenda, who is, as you can see, an absolute queen, for joining me and reminding you that we're all kings and queens in our jungle, and each of us has a story to share. Till next time, I'm your queen, Maria Tabrai, and we will see you again soon. Stream this and new episodes wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.